Well, I'm very honored and delighted to welcome the statue of Harry Truman to the Rotunda. It's at a pivotal moment in our nation's future. Let's face it, today's world is dangerous. Communist China is growing more aggressive. Putin's Russia is mobilizing and escalating. And an Iran regime that murders its own people is inching closer to a nuclear weapon. These dangers echo the chaos, the complexity, and the scope of the early Cold War. As we confront these challenges, we have the lessons of Harry Truman to guide us. Lesson number one, leadership matters. Truman shaped American foreign policy by taking principled actions based upon the circumstances he faced. In March 1947, he laid out the Truman Doctrine, pledging America would support free peoples against communism. In 1948, he approved the historic Berlin airlift, which brought the people of Berlin food, medicine, and even candy for more than a year. This forced the Soviets to lift the blockade. Truman trusted Americans' exceptionalism, and he understood that a successful U.S. foreign policy begins with the idea that we should stand by our principles of freedom. Harry Truman's lesson number two, friends and allies matter. In one of his boldest actions as president, President Truman ordered the United States to recognize the State of Israel just 11 minutes after they were created. And Truman remained a steadfast ally to Israel because he knew that the source of our friendship with Israel ran deep. He said in 1952, Israel has a glorious future before it, not just as another sovereign nation, but as an embodiment of the great ideals of civilization. This statue reaffirms our unbreakable commitment to Israel and other allies, which are based upon our shared values and interests. Harry Truman's lesson number three, live up to our values. Truman knew that the fight for freedom was not restricted to distant lands. One of his shining moments as president was his commitment to challenging civil rights, including in our military. As it was earlier stated, on January 26, 1948, President Truman signed Executive Order 9981, which made segregation in our military illegal. Truman understood the importance of living up to our founding values that we are all created equal. And that is especially true when Americans are fighting together in foxholes. Lesson number four by Harry Truman is on his statue. The buck stops here. I hope as the policymakers walk through and they admire this statue, they read all the way down to the bottom. That was a sign that Truman famously kept on his desk. It was his motto, his code, his philosophy of leadership. In his farewell address, Truman said, "The president, whoever he is, has to decide. He can't pass the buck to anybody. No one else can do the deciding for him. That's his job." That's sound advice, not just to a president, but I think to a nation. Everyone should listen to it, especially policymakers. Don't blame others for your failings. Own them, learn from them, and fix them. Whatever the dangers today, it is important that we learn from history. As we welcome this statue to the Rotunda, Truman's actions offer lessons for today, tomorrow, and of all time. Let's remember, let's work to build a nation that is safe, a future that is built on freedom, and a government that is accountable. Thank you, and God bless.